Hey everyone! So the English Royals went to Canada this past weekend. Not really sure what the details of the trip are, but look at the adorable dress little Charlotte is wearing. I love the smocking plate and I'm trying to recreate it, although I couldn't find an up-close picture of the smocking, so let's say the design that I'm showing this video will be inspired by the dress worn by little Charlotte. Since I'm not sure I got it 100% the same, but anywho, here you go. Oh, and I have a video on smocking, so if you need to learn the basics, head over there first. So to begin this design, and yes, my nails look lovely after tiling our second bathroom this past weekend. Just overlook them, please. So to begin, tie onto the back of your work. I do this by going through 2 pleats and then through them again to create a loop. Then I pull my thread through the loop and create a knot. From there, go up on the side of the first pleat. You'll go up on the left side. And I think the design on top is a 5-step trellis. So I'm not 100% sure on this since I couldn't find any up-close photos, but I'm guessing it's a 5-step trellis. So at any rate, to do the 5-step trellis, start by coming up on the left side of your first pleat, then go straight across to the second pleat for your first stitch. Now you're going to work down the trellis to the next pleat about 1/8 of an inch over or so. Then stitch to the next pleat, and you'll just keep doing this, trying to space the stitches out evenly. Of course, this is hand done, so there'll be some inherent variation to your stitches, and that's just part of the appeal to a handmade garment, at least in my opinion. I mean, your stitches should be as even as you can get them, but this is not a machine doing the work, and we don't want it to look like it was. So once you've completed that row, or you've run out of floss, take your needle to the wrong side of your work and tie off. You'll go through 2 pleats, or at least I like to go through 2 pleats, just like it did tie on, and then again wrap your needle around that loop twice to create a knot. So now you can move on to the second row of trellis. This row is done in white floss just underneath the blue row, say about 1/8 of an inch or so. So I'm starting this the same way as I did the blue row, just offset it about 1 stitch, if you will. So my first white stitch is at the level of my second blue stitch, if that makes sense, so on and so forth. Also, just a reminder, your stitches will look their best if you keep your floss flat. And I go over this in more detail of my pleating 101 video, but you can see that I'm constantly rotating my needle to untwist my floss. Then twisted floss makes your stitches look like a hot mess in a hurry, and it's kind of the reason I don't like to smock with floss. I really prefer pearl cotton, but I think this look, from the pictures that I can see, I think it's floss. So anyway, once you complete the second row, rinse and repeat for the third row. You'll do another row in that same white embroidery floss, same sort of deal with being 1 stitch behind the previous row. And now for your fourth row, you'll skip a pleating thread since you'll want the top of this trellis to meet the bottom of the previous trellis, and you'll see what I mean as I continue stitching. Again, keep your stitches as evenly spaced out as possible and your thread untwisted. So as we get to the top of this trellis, you'll see how it joins the bottom of the previous trellis. And that's kind of what I was talking about before. And you'll just keep smocking. You'll do the reverse of the first 3 rows. So the next row will be a white trellis, and then the next row will be a blue. And once you completed that section, you can move on to the bottom section of smocking. You'll start this with blue floss and you'll skip a pleating thread. So this time you'll do a 1-step trellis, which again is a slight guess, but it works out with our 5-step trellis, so roll with it. So the trellis will start just like all the others, come up on the left side of that first pleat, stitch straight over to the next pleat. Then stitch about midway down between the 2 pleating threads, and then finally stitch at the next pleat line. This is a half row, of course, and stitch over to the next pleat to finish that trellis. and rinse and repeat in reverse to take the trellis back up. This next row of smocking will start where the previous row started. This will lead to the trellis forming the diamond shape, and this is a really common theme in geometric English smocking. So the next row, you'll skip down to the next pleating thread and begin the same one-step trellis that will form the next row of diamonds. And then you'll do one last row of the white trellis step for another row of diamonds. Finally, you'll mirror that row with a blue floss like we've done previously. And at this point, all you have left are the bullion stitches, and don't worry, yes, they have a learning curve, but they really aren't that bad. Just practice them a few times and you'll be good to go. So to do the bullion stitch on the top section of smocking, I came up on the left side of the second pleat from the middle, if that makes sense. So basically this bullion is going to be a bigger bullion, and I'm thinking it's going to go across about 4 pleats total. So that means it'll go across 2 to the left side of the middle and 2 to the right side of the middle. So I come back through and put my needle just to the right of the previous spot, and from there I wrap my needle as many times as it takes to cover that length. So I think I did mine about 8 times or so. And there's 2 things that are really important to making a pretty bullion. First, you'll want to make sure your floss isn't twisted. So when you see it on the needle, you want to make sure it's all laying flat. You don't have any bumps or twists in it, whatever. That'll make it look terrible. And secondly, you want to make sure that you can move your thread up and down on your needle like you're seeing here. If it's too tight and you can't move your thread along your needle like I'm showing, you'll have a really tough time pulling your pulling your needle through. And that was my biggest mistake when I was learning this stitch. My fingers got to the point where they just hurt really bad. I was making my thread so tight on my needle, and you don't need to do that. So once you have those down, pull your needle through and carefully tighten the bullion down. So normally I just put my thumb over the stitch and pull it tight to the fabric, but with the camera in the way, I had to use the needle to get that last wrap to go into place. So just play with it to get it to lay flat, whatever's happening in your situation. Kind of every bullion's a little bit unique, but you just kind of do what it needs to do to get it tight. And if you tighten it too much, you don't want to tighten it too much, but if you do tighten it too much, you can take your needle and sort of fluff the wraps so they poof out again. You just sort of take it in the wraps of the bullion like I'm showing, and you'll see it kind of poofs it out again. Gosh, I hope this makes sense. Anyway, for the bullions on the bottom section of smocking, I went across 2 pleats and used about 4 to 5 wraps. So once you do all the bullions, this is what your piece will look like. And notice there's a blank diamond between the bullions on the bottom section of smocking. I hope this was helpful. If anyone has any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. As always, I appreciate y'all for watching. I hope to catch y'all next time.